Hello, welcome to Looking Up. This is a podcast for Christian women. We're so glad you have joined us today. We are looking forward to our very off-the-cuff chat today. We just for various reasons came up with something last minute, but it's something that I've been looking at for a while. But we're going to talk about something that may give you some feelings if you're a parent, and if you're not yet a parent, it will give you something to think about for the future. But thank you for joining us. I am Carla Moore. I am in Dripping Springs, Texas, and my friend Kathy Pollard is in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And we just spend an hour or so once a week chatting about things that we find interesting. And we like to imagine that we're sitting at a big table talking with you with your favorite mug in your hand, especially if, is it cold where you are?
Cold and windy.
Okay, well, it's pretty sunny and warm here. So I'll have something cold to drink and you have something warm to drink. Whatever you want. We would just enjoy to think about sitting down and having a conversation together and just being friends and being Christian sisters. And that's what we really enjoy the most about this. We talk about looking up, which is taken from Colossians 3, 1 and 2, and just having our minds set on things that are above and not so much down here on earth with things they change so much and they're so frustrating sometimes, and they can be beautiful too, but it's just so much better to look up at the Lord and what He has planned for us and things that are so much better. So here we are. What are you up to today? What's going on over there in Kentucky?
Well, forget me. You're the one that just got back from Hawaii. Aloha. And you're
Aloha.
positively glowing.
Oh,
I
thank
can
you.
see that sun-kissed glow and with your hair lightened up like that pink color. You brought some Hawaii home with you.
Well, we just got home less than 24 hours ago, and it
Woo!
was it was glorious. It was so amazing. But we don't have to talk about that. We can talk about what's going on here.
Well, I saw your pictures. They looked stunning. I mean, so many of them frame worthy.
Well, Hawaii, it's just one of those. I kept telling John, it's just so intense. Everything about it is bigger than life. Everything green is super green. Anything blue is super blue. There's so much vegetation, although Maui, I learned, is part desert. Would you have even thought that
I did not
an
know that.
island where you can see the ocean would be part desert? But part
Mm-mm.
of it is dry, which Lahaina, where we stayed, is the location of the fires a couple of years ago. You remember them talking about part of Maui burning, and there was evidence of that still there, and they're still rebuilding. And part of that, it was downed power lines that started it. So, but it's just, there's mountains, there's the ocean, there's all
Mhm.
kinds of life. It's just a stunning place. It was so beautiful, and I don't know, we just had the best time. There's nothing that I would change about it. Teased John just a little while ago. He had his uniform back on with his Bible passages polo and his khaki pants, and I said, "I haven't seen those in a while. Can you not just get a Hawaiian shirt and have it embroidered with Bible passages and wear that every day?"
Yeah.
But it was we didn't work. We did answer some emails and things like that, but we just had the best conversations and the best food. You said you were proud of me for. I know you said, yeah, you said you were proud of me for eating seafood.
Yeah, I saw a lot of pictures of seafood.
John ate more than I did, and you did notice maybe that it was fried seafood that I
It
enjoyed.
still counts.
Yeah, it was really good. There was one night we went to a place that John ordered a trio of whatever, it had some beef teriyaki and some kind of pork, and then it had fish, was advertised fish. And he got the plate and he started eating, and he handed me a bite of, he said, "This chicken is so amazing." And he handed it to me and I ate it and I was like, "Yeah, it's really tender chicken." And then he sat there and he goes, "This plate doesn't have any fish on it. They advertised it as having fish." And so he called the waiter over, and then he came over and John said, "It's all really good, but is there not any fish on here?" And he pointed to the chicken and he said, "That's mahi mahi." And I mean, neither one of us had any idea that it was fish. That was really good. So
That's funny. Tastes like
it
chicken.
did a lot. Yeah, it tastes like chicken, but it was really good. Food was good. I had crab and shrimp. I didn't ever get any neither one of us had any lobster. John said he'd had it one time before and it was just a lot of work. And so I didn't have any of that, but
Mhm.
it was good. It was good. We didn't do any luau's. They were crazy expensive. It was going to be like $400. And so we just decided that's something we don't need to do. Yeah.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah. But we
Mm.
sat and listened to the waves and watched people surfing and we saw some huge turtles and we rode bikes and I fell off and into the road, which was kind of a little bit of a scary thing. It wasn't, I love bike riding, but this was a little intense because we were riding on the roads with people and it wasn't like trail riding in Colorado where you have a dedicated trail for bikes. So now I have some really pretty scars on my knee. And
Oh
it's right where
no.
you bend your knee, so it keeps breaking open.
Oh,
But anyway,
ouch.
that would be the only thing that I would change about the whole week. I would not have fallen off my bike.
When you and I were chatting about it before we hit record, I was thinking about how, you really, this is, everybody calls Hawaii paradise.
Mhm.
And from talking to you, it sounds like it's an apt description of it. And, I can't help but think about how God gave us that taste of paradise on earth. How much
Mm,
more beautiful is paradise going to be for eternity? You were talking about the intense colors and the blues and the greens and the tropical vegetation, which just makes my
mhm,
heart sing. I want to go see that for myself. And man, can you imagine how
mm.
beautiful it will be in the paradise?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and as much as you love, you're an ocean girl,
Hmm.
you need to go see it. You need to go. It is expensive. Lots of
Hmm.
people had said that before, and I think I mentioned last week that this was a gift, and it
Hmm.
was I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. It was a gift, so we didn't have to worry too much about that. But um, it's just it's pretty hard to describe. We went on a whale watching tour.
That's
And that was
amazing.
so much fun. And I didn't really get it. We've had lots of friends that have gone and done that. And we think it's neat when you see this big, huge fish jump out of the water and splash. And we didn't see that happen. But then when you're out there on this big catamaran and you see one of those big tails come about and splash and it's a mama and her baby, it's just one of
Very
those things
cool.
that's really
Hmm.
neat to see. So we thoroughly enjoyed it.
Hmm. Well, I mean, that's great and all, but wait until you hear about my excitement this week.
Okay. Tell me what you did this week.
I mean, you got to go to Hawaii, but I got to have a sump pump installed in my house.
Oh, probably cost about the same thing too. Ugh.
No, but actually, I was pretty tickled pink about it because
I don't even know what those do. What does a sump pump do?
I don't really know. I just know that it's supposed to correct the problem we've had with the flooding in the basement. We're coming
Oh,
into our rainy
okay.
season, and I'm just so grateful that now we don't have to, if it works, I won't have to hold my breath every time the rains come.
Yeah.
That we'll be mucking out water out of the basement. And Barrett and Hillary recommended this guy, and he showed up with a crew. I mean, he had like 4 or 5 guys with him in his big truck, pulling a big trailer with all of his things. And he said, I've got another truck coming. And he said, he warned us ahead of time he was going to be using a jackhammer and it'd be really, really loud. And we would probably want to leave the house. And so
Mhm.
I thought it was going to be like this all day thing. But, we were kind of doing how much longer? And really, I think I don't know, maybe a total of 3 or 4 hours, maybe. I don't even know if it was that much. He was like, "Oh, we're done. We're wrapping up." And so, I mean, they just came in, got it done, and so I'm thrilled. It's weird that I'm looking forward to a torrential downpour
Yeah, I
to
was gonna
see
say.
what happens.
Now you're like, okay, come on, let's
Yeah, come on. But I am anxious for it to be tested out. And so, anyway, that's our big news.
sump pump.
Yeah. Also,
Okay,
Atlas's first
congratulations.
tooth popped through today. So that's big news.
Did he have a hard time with it?
He did. Yeah. I mean, I didn't see very much of it, but Gary and Chelsea said it was, it made him fussy and
Yeah.
a little cranky. And
How old is he?
He will be 7 months on the
Okay.
19th.
Yeah. Well, don't tell him that there's a whole bunch more coming after that.
I know it.
The
I know
first of
it.
many.
Yeah. And well, Jennifer Harrison and I recorded a Bible marking video together.
Yeah, I saw that. I haven't watched it yet, but I saw that. That's neat.
Yeah. And it was kind of funny because I had to be out of the house. And so we were trying to find a place in the church building that had good natural lighting. And we ended up in the weirdest location. When you first walk in the main doors, there's a little tiny area where people put their umbrellas and stuff. And then there's another set of main doors. So we were in that narrow middle section between the main doors because it got the most light. And we just brought a little table in there and set everything up. And I didn't really know until it was after it was all said and done and I was going back through to edit that the audio is terrible because it sounds like, have you ever talked to somebody who's on the phone in a bathroom? It has that kind of
Sounds
like echoey.
echoey.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. So, but I'm keeping it anyway because we had so much fun. And when I was going back through and edited, I took a lot of this out, but it was cracking me up. This, she was really fun to do it with. So,
What was the topic?
the names of God, which I couldn't pronounce most of them.
Mhm.
So, and then uh, one of them is Jehovah Shammah or Shammah. I really don't know how to pronounce those things. And Jennifer goes, "Oh, that's Hero Israel the Lord." And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "In fact, that's on my ring." And it wasn't until later that it dawned on me those are two different words.
Yeah. The Shema.
The Shema from, I guess, Deuteronomy is
Mhm.
Shema, and the name of God, Shema, is Shammah, and means something completely different. So I'm like, great.
Well, that's what this is all about, though, is learning. So you learn.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, but it was
Well,
fun. It was
are you going to
fun.
do more of those recording with? I mean, I know you did one with Christy, but you're going to do more with other people?
I've done one with Christy. I did one with Kim Eubanks when we were down at Gulf Shores, and then I just did one with Jennifer, and I enjoy it. It's more fun to do
Mhm.
that. So I hope to. I hope
Well, it's
to.
natural because you're showing someone and you're demonstrating.
Hmm.
So you have
Yeah,
someone right next to you doing that with you.
yeah,
I
yeah.
like those.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks. I think I taught in the Tri-City School of Preaching since we've talked last. I got to,
Really?
yeah, meet with the girls for 3 hours last Thursday, and it was over Zoom, so that takes away, you know,
Yeah.
the interaction really for me, but I still enjoyed it, and it was fun seeing their faces and to get back into that preacher's wife training mode. I
Mhm.
really enjoyed it. It was Kathy Jones is the dean of women
Yeah.
there. So it was fun getting to see her too.
Well, I saw your name on Bear Valleys that you're teaching class with them. Are you not?
Mm-mm. You sure it
Okay.
was me and not Kathy Petrillo?
Well, Neil's teaching preaching his work, right?
No,
Maybe it was a really, really old
it
thing
probably
that I
was.
saw.
Yeah.
Okay, that might be
I
something
think
to check into.
Hiram just got back from there and I think he taught preacher in his work.
Yeah. Yeah, he did. And now I'm really curious about what I saw because, I mean,
Yeah, I did
unless it
have
was
that moment of panic, like, say what? You saw what?
because I meant to mention it to you last week, that because I was like, oh, she's going to be teaching. I guess she's going to be doing it on Zoom. And, um, but maybe
Mm-mm.
it was a really, really old. I'm going to have to go find it. I'll not spend more time doing it right now, but
Mm, yeah.
surprise, you're teaching at
Yeah.
Bear Valley.
News to me.
Well, is Neil teaching at Tri-Cities too?
No. When
So it's not
he
that I,
teaches at Georgia School of Preaching.
okay, well, I'll see
Yeah.
what I can find. Sorry to give you that little heart-stopping moment
That's
there.
okay. That's okay. I'm over it. Also,
Now,
Neil and I had our New Year's tea. Finally.
okay.
It was a little late. And the reason I'm sharing it is because this year felt so different to me. I don't know if I'm just more aware of the passage of time, but usually, I think I've shared this on here before, but we usually get together and that's the only time out of the year that Neil's going to have a cup of tea.
He's a coffee man.
He is, but we will talk about, the year that we just had together. And I think one of your kids does this too. Don't Jake and
They
Liz
can
do
let's
this?
have they call it a summit. Yeah.
Yeah. So we talk about the year that we've had and our goals and plans for the future. And, it's usually has to do with our home, our marriage, our work, stuff like that. Well, this time I just felt completely different. I feel like usually I'm hit with all these, we need to accomplish this, and this year we're going to do this, and by this month we're going to have this done. And I just was so overwhelmed with the thought of I just want to be in the moment, embrace every experience, be
Mhm.
grateful for every day, be thankful for every day with my husband. And I'm trying to tell him that, and I started crying. He's like looking at, he's giving me this look like, what's going on? And I think I just, we are getting older, and I'm hearing about people that are having sudden heart attacks or, something happened, unexpected losses. And I don't know, it just hit me. It just hit me way different this year. And I thought, I don't feel the need to say, let's plan this, and this. I just want to focus on, I mean, I'm going to work, obviously, but I just want to focus on making the most of every moment and enjoying every day. I can't imagine life without Neil, and I don't know why I got so morbid.
Well, I mean, it's a good, serious thought to have, though. And it's not, I think it's just good to consider it. It's not good to linger on it and to worry about it all the time. But you're
Mm-hmm.
right. I mean, the older we get, and I thought about this too, because our anniversary is not until June, but it's our 40th this year. And,
Congratulations. Yeah.
the thing is, unless something really, really unusual happens, we're not going to have 40 more. So we're looking at the latter part of our years together. So I get what you're saying. It's good. And I think we figured that out some last week to just enjoy it. And I didn't worry too much about I took a lot of pictures, but not a whole lot. And I thought just live without the camera in front, just live
Yeah.
and be and
Soak it
enjoy.
in.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
And have
I'm
those
glad you did that.
memories.
Hmm.
Yeah. So did I think did I tell you that we ran into Jason and Jill Jackson
Neil
at
told
worship
me.
on Sunday?
Yeah, that's amazing.
It was so funny, and I didn't recognize them right away. We were talking to another couple, which we also had mutual friends with them. It was a couple. They walked in, and she was talking to the person sitting. They have a guest book, and when we started talking about where you're from, where John, he's like, so tell me about yourself. What kind of line of work are you in? Where are you from? And all these
Hmm.
questions. And so when we said we were from Dripping Springs, she said, you don't know Kim Sessions, do you? And I said, do I? And so it turns out that she was Kim's best friend back in grade school days. And so we lived in the same town. This woman and I lived in the same
Oh,
town in San
wow.
Marcos. And then so at that moment is when Jason and Jill walked in, and I kind of glanced over and thought they looked familiar. And even when he said his name, and he and John were talking, we haven't been around them enough to know them well, that I
Mhm.
thought, is that? I didn't hear her say her name at the moment, but I thought she looks familiar too. And so finally, when we made the connections, like, and then Neil told us that they love Hawaii, so they've been
Mhm.
there multiple times. So it was fun to talk to them, and it's just such a small world, especially in the church.
Yeah, I think one of her profile pictures in the past used to be an underwater picture of that they had taken of them when they had gone. I don't know if it was snorkeling or diving, but either way, it's an amazing shot
Hmm.
of them underwater in
I'm gonna have to go
Hawaii.
look. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, very cool.
yeah. I'm
So
trying
is
to
there
see.
like just one church on Maui? How'd that happen?
Well, it's there. It turns out when we went back to Lahaina where we were staying, we noticed a sign, and there is a Spanish congregation there. We
Hmm.
just drove past it. It said Iglesia de Cristo, and so now we're curious about that. We didn't see that until our last day there.
Hmm.
But the Maui congregation is on. We stayed on the northwest side, and it's on the kind of the southeast side. So it was
So how
about
long of a
45
drive
minutes.
was
It's
that?
about
Oh,
45 minutes.
45
Yeah.
minutes. Yeah.
Not a huge island, but
Hmm.
right after that, we tried to do, there's a drive. You've probably heard of the road to Hana. And this was not the road to Hana, but this was the other side of the island. And did you watch the time lapse video. You may not have watched the
I saw
video.
some of it.
So it's zigzagging switchbacks, turns, and curves, and the road narrows, and it's a one lane road, and there's drop offs. And so we're going around this corner, and then in a one lane road, another car, and the ocean is however many 1,000 feet below, and
Yeah.
I I couldn't deal with it. And I get angry when I get afraid. And I just said that was the one time the whole week we got along super well. And even this was not a big deal, but I just said, I can't do this. I can't do it. So John, he said, well, you want me to turn around? Not right here. We can't turn around right here. So I had to like grip the sides of the car and just close my eyes and didn't like that. Don't like that.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I feel you. I think I would have reacted the same way.
yeah. Anyway, it was not that. I mean, why? I think I would have done better if we were on the other side of the road, like we were hugging the mountain, but we
Right.
were on the outside. Anyway, enough about that because it's giving me some PTSD thinking about it.
Yikes.
All right. Do you have anything else before we?
I don't think so. Mm-mm.
Okay. So, we are going to talk about something that I found. My friend Angela Smith shared this, I don't know, a week or two ago, and it's 9 things your kids copy from you. And when you read the list, it makes you a little uncomfortable because
Mhm.
we all know that your kids, they're watching you. You've always got somebody watching you, but especially when you're raising kids and they're watching how you deal with things. Like if my kids had been in the car with me while I was anxious about that. You know what's funny about that now that I think about it? I told John about this when I was a kid. We were in Ruidosa, New Mexico, and we were riding in a Jeep up on a mountain, one of those Jeep kind of trails. And
Mhm.
you know how sometimes you're like almost sideways when you're going up those mountains. And I was sitting in the back seat. I was probably 5 years old with my mom, and she was freaking out. And so I was freaking out. So think about, I'm not saying it's her fault that I couldn't do that road the other day, but mom, come on, if you had not been so anxious about that Jeep ride, I probably would have had fun. No, I'm sure that it's not that, but still
Mhm.
think about how many things that you grow up with and you learn how to handle things by how your parents do. So, 9 things your kids copy from you. And the first one is really very uncomfortable, but it's how you handle anger and frustration. How do you handle anger and frustration? And do you,
I'm never angry or frustrated.
that's true. How could they learn anything about that?
That's
Because they've
right.
never seen any of it on us, have they?
Ah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
I have mixed feelings about this topic that you've thrown on us here because I know we're going to go through each of them, but at least half of them are cringy
yeah,
and make me very uncomfortable. And I don't even have kids in the home anymore, but I still feel this kind of ooh feeling, and I'm also hoping that none of my grown children actually listen to this episode.
because they can blame everything on us
That's
now.
right. That's right. Yeah, how you handle anger and frustration. I feel like this is probably the most challenging one of this whole list. And I was just saying, Gary and Chelsea were at the dinner table the other night. We literally just had this conversation about how when your kids leave home, you feel more free to speak your mind, or to give somebody a piece of your mind because you don't have those little ears listening in. And it kind of, for me, I noticed that it took away my filter, of being careful how I talk to somebody when I'm angry, I guess, namely Neil. And, or if I'm frustrated with him, not losing my cool in front of the kids. I felt like I was mostly aware and tried to be careful about that. But I know there were times like body language is a major form of communication. I know there were plenty of times where I may not have said the words, but my body would have reflected my anger. So even then, there's a lot to consider. There's a lot to consider with little eyes and ears tuned in.
Yeah. Well, and I think that some of my angst about this topic comes from the fact that it's too late for me. Like,
Yeah,
you've
yeah,
had your chance, Carla, and when I look at this, I think, oh, well,
yeah.
I've already done it, and if I hurt them, I it's already done, and hopefully they have overcome whatever damage I may have inflicted on them. But I think we all can look
Mm,
at things that our parents did and say, I don't want to do it like they did it. And I don't, that my parents didn't do anything that I seriously go, I will never do it that way. But still, I mean, we learn that there's ways that we don't want to do things like our parents did, and probably they did things because they didn't want to do them the way their parents did. But I don't know. For me, with anger, I don't know. I feel when I'm afraid, it makes me angry, and
mhm,
so that's what when I looked at that, I thought, how many times did they see me
mm,
acting angry because I was afraid of something, or and then really frustration with them when they were little. How did I handle frustration with how they were acting? I was impatient, or I was
mhm.
um, I don't think I got loud a whole lot. I was never much of a yeller, um, but they learn from that and they turn around and I don't know. You can see little kiddos that live in a difficult situation and you can see how I mean, it's almost like you're watching them act out what they see at home, and that's a sobering thing.
Mhm. Well, another thing that's sobering is when your kids are all together, your grown kids are all together and they start reminiscing, and the things that they're saying about their childhood don't match up with my recollections of their childhood. When they say things like, "Oh, you remember when mom would blah, blah, blah," and I'm like, "Oh, I did not." And so it makes me wonder about the things that I look back on that I do kind of like, I feel like I did pretty, pat myself on the back. I feel like I did that pretty decent, and then I hear some of their conversations and I did? Really? Really? That's what you
Yeah.
remember? That's what you get from that, so regardless of how I felt I did, what they took away from it in some instances is a little bit different.
Yeah. Makes me think about, we've talked about this before, what spills out of you when you're under
Mhm.
stress and pressure, or press and stressor, is what you've put in. And so,
Mhm.
whatever spills out that they see that is spurred on by anger or frustration is because we either have or have not prepared ourselves for that moment. So,
Well, and,
that
and that's the key word, isn't it? Because we're all going to experience anger and frustration, but how we deal with it is what it's talking about. And as you know, I experienced something this past week where I thought I was handling it and not showing frustration, but was, like, and so that is something that my kids could have picked up on and when they were growing up in the home. I may have felt anger and frustration and thought I was doing a good job of not giving in or not giving in to, like reacting in that way. But again, tone, body language, there are still clues, and children are smart. They can read you. They know when something's off. And so that probably happens. It's very uncomfortable. That probably happens more in the home when my kids are grown up than I thought I did. I probably didn't do as good a job as I thought I did simply because my face gave things away, that I didn't want it to.
yeah, well, I guess I don't know. In our situation, I don't think our children ever had anything that they lived through with us that they were afraid of us exploding, but it just breaks my heart to think about children out there who are afraid of their parents, and you
Mm,
know, they're watching their parents' faces for clues as to, is it my fault, or is my world about to be turned upside down? And I think there's a lot of that in the world because there's a lot of worldly people out there. But
mm,
yeah, you're right. When people know us well, it's hard to hide.
mhm.
Even when we try, it's hard to hide what's going on in our hearts and in our minds. So how we handle how we handle anger and frustration. is the first one. The second one on here is how you talk about others when they're not around. So
Ooh.
we always laugh because one of our sons was so we have two older and then Micah is younger. And we it's funny because when I think of our family, it's like we had Jordan and Jacob for 6 and 8 years before Micah came along. So when we say the boys, we typically are talking about Jordan and Jacob. Sorry, Micah, you are part of the boys, but you came along later. And as the big boys say, that Micah had no discipline. He was just he did whatever he wanted to. But anyway, one of the boys is quiet listener and information gatherer.
Mm,
And the other one was always like in the back seat. If we would be talking, John would be talking about something, the information gatherer is being silent, but he's listening.
hmm.
The other one is like, who, what? What did you say? What did they do? They said what? And so we'd be like, okay, we got to talk about this later. But for the information gatherer, the next day we would hear him say, well, so why did he say that to that person? Or, he would make some comment and John and I would be like, whoops, we didn't know you heard that. And you need to not say anything to anybody about that. So, I mean, you may think that your kids aren't listening to you talk about others, but they are hearing it and they're picking up your habits.
Yeah, and when you get away from that environment of having little ones in the home, do you remember how recently we talked about when you haven't had small children in the home, but then you're around your grands, you have to rebuild your immune system? I
Yeah.
feel like it's the same thing. When you've been away from that, and then all of a sudden there's littles in the home, like my
Uh-huh.
language has changed since the
Yeah.
kids left home. And I'm not saying I use bad words because I don't, but my language has changed. And I catch myself saying things around the grands, and I'm like, probably shouldn't. And again, not a bad word or anything, but just,
Uh-huh. You don't have to clarify.
okay, thanks. But also, I've caught myself when I go to the church building and I'm walking around and I'm visiting with people, if I'm standing at a pew and I'm talking to somebody and we're like all getting into it, oh, whatever. I'm not saying we're gossiping about somebody, but just like talking about maybe it's an adult situation.
Yeah.
They've got children on the pew right next to them,
Mhm.
that are quietly sitting there, but they've got ears and they are taking it all in. So even in situations where maybe it's not even your own kids, I mean, we're talking about our children in our home, but you just forget that children are listening and absorbing, and this is something to be aware of, even if we're fellowshipping with other people and it's their kids that are sitting there. Respect that situation also. I'm saying this to myself.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. This made me think of some who don't really watch what they say around their kids. They're open, completely open with information
Hmm.
and will say it in front of and I'm not talking about little kids, although they probably did with little ones too, but teenagers, they're talking about situations that really their teenagers don't need to know about. And
Hmm.
that makes me very cautious what I say in front of not the kids, but their parents, because I know whatever I say, they're
Their kids are
they're
going to
going to
hear.
talk about it in front of their kids, and it's not confidential anymore. So,
Yeah.
that makes me uncomfortable because there are some things that kids just don't need to know. There's some
Hmm.
things that I don't need to know.
Hmm.
And being judicious in what we say around our kids or other people's kids or other people in general, because they may or may not be careful what they say in front of their kids.
I was just thinking about any experience that we've had with others. It seems like we share that. If I've gone to lunch with somebody, I share that. I share that with Neil or whoever. If I've whatever experience or interaction we've had with other people, whoever we're around next, seems like something's gonna be shared, you know.
Mhm.
Um, and hopefully no gossip is involved, but what are you saying about that situation? And if it was a negative interaction or you thought they were idiotic or whatever, whatever your impression or reaction is, what are you sharing? That's what we're talking about here is how you talk about others when they're not around.
Yeah. And so and it's not just about what you say, but how. The
Mhm.
statement is how you
Yeah.
talk about others. Are you complimentary of them? Do you brag on them? Do you say nice things about them? Because to me, this is, yeah, it's you're talking about someone when they're not around. So how do you talk when they're not face to face? Are you
Mm-hmm.
ragging on them? Because they're going to pick up on that, and they're, we've talked about this with regard to the church. When you leave the church building on Sunday morning, are you roasting the preacher, and are you, sauteing the song leader and all that kind of stuff? They
Hmm.
they they're just going to pick up, and they're going to be like you. It's a pretty sobering thing when you think about your kids are going to be like you, at least for
Hmm.
a little while.
Yeah.
Okay, the third one is the way you apologize or don't. I was never very good at apologizing. Don't tell John that. He knows. He already knows. I'm learning. I'm better at it than I used to be.
Yeah, me neither. And Neil is so much better at it with our kids when they were growing up and with me. And they've seen both of it. They watched the way we both apologized or didn't with them and the way we apologized or didn't with each other. So I know who I'm rooting for them to emulate.
Well, one of someone close to me told me that a friend of hers gave her parenting advice and said that you should never admit to your children that you've been wrong about something because you are the authority figure. I know the look on your face is like, huh? Um, and I remember that this person told me that, and
Huh.
it just it
Hmm.
floored me because I think that your children learn how to apologize from you.
Hmm.
And if
Hmm.
you don't, then they're not going to learn how, or it's going to be harder for them to when they have homes of their own or job situations or, whatever. They're not going to be able to do it because they don't know how because they've never seen you do it. So I had to take issue with that. And
Yeah.
I mean, you have to be careful not to apologize to everything about everything with your kids because you're not always wrong about everything, but they need to see when you admit that you've done something in a bad way or shouldn't have done something or you talk to them harshly. That's
Hmm.
how they learn.
Yeah, it takes humility to acknowledge that you've mishandled a situation and to apologize. And I just keep thinking that if pride gets in the way every time and for whatever reason, you don't want to make them see you as less authoritative, I don't really get that. But for whatever reason, that's the take home for them. I don't think they're going to see you as more of an authority figure. I think they'll see you as a proud person who lacks humility. And how are they supposed to learn humility if
Mhm.
it's not demonstrated?
Right. And
Ugh.
I tend to follow authority that is humble. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm drawn to that. I think that
Yeah.
indicates a very strong person that can humbly admit when they're wrong.
Hmm.
So parents, be careful because the way you apologize or don't apologize, that's something that your kid will copy from you. Okay, number four. So number one was how you handle anger and frustration. Number two, how you talk about others when they're not around. Number three, the way you apologize. And number four is the way you talk about your body. And we had boys. What do you think that how did this affect you?
I think it is different that we had boys. I mean, I'm
I
sure
think so too.
I mean, they witnessed all my dieting cycles, all the all the things that we tried through the years. They were privy to that.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't have talked about it very much in front of them just because they're boys.
Yeah.
I think it is really huge with girls in the home.
Yeah, I do too. And here you again, you and I just had boys, but I've been around moms who are super, super conscious of, their diets or how they look or not leaving the house without makeup or whatever. And their daughters emulate that. And
Mhm.
probably because they're being taught that, or of course they're seeing it. But I think that's definitely something we need to be careful about.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's,
And it's great to take care of yourself, care about your appearance and your health and all that kind of stuff. But if you're obsessing over it and that becomes, what you agonize over and you're always talking about it and, that would definitely impress upon your children.
Yeah. I'm sure that there will be moms of daughters that can enlighten us on how this was a hard
Yeah.
thing.
Mm,
Number five, if you have any more to say about number four, I mean
mm,
that one is a little different for us. Number five, how you handle disagreements.
mhm,
So, how our kids will copy us in how we handle disagreements. And so, probably that would apply disagreements with them, maybe when they're older, teenagers. But I would think this speaks more to how we handle disagreements with our husbands in front of them.
mhm,
And this is another one of those things that I think about. Uh, my parents had disagreements in front of Doug and me. Never anything bad, but they would disagree. And it wasn't a big deal. John's parents never disagreed. He's told me they never disagreed in front of their kids. That was a big deal to them. They would go somewhere else and have their disagreement. And how it affected us is that after we got married, when we had a disagreement, John thought the world was ending. And I thought it was just Tuesday. It was just kind of normal. But it was something that we had to figure out. Why did this affect him so differently than it did me? And I think because I saw it handled in a healthy way. And I'm not saying his parents didn't handle it in a healthy way. It's just something that they did differently and it affected us. We had to work through it.
mhm. Yeah, that's pretty smart. And I was thinking about you approached it from the marriage one, which makes sense because that's what's taking place in the home. But I was also thinking about conflict with other people, and maybe it involves your kids.
Yeah.
Somebody
Mama
did
bear.
something to your precious. Yeah. And how do you handle that? I think it's a lot.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that.
And, overall, looking back, I felt like I needed to handle it a certain way. Part of it was because we've always been in ministry anyway, but there were a handful of times when I kind of I'm trying to word this the right way, tackled something head on, if you will,
Yeah.
because I felt like I needed to, but
Mhm.
it was more of a mama bear reaction probably than it should have been. And I'm telling you, the kids still talk about that.
Mm.
So
In a
I
good
don't
way.
feel good about it. I don't feel good about the way I handled it. And looking back, I think, it probably was a situation that, as unreasonable or unfair as I thought it was, if it had been, overlooked, graciously overlooked, it would not have impacted my kids at all. At
Mm.
all. But the fact that they still talk about, hey, do you remember that time, Mom? Ooh, and when I hear them do that, I go, oh, it
I'm
is
going to
not
need you to
something to
tell
be
me about
proud
that
of.
later.
Yeah, I'll tell you later.
Mama bear in action.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, on the other side of that, how you handle conflict, even in situations like that, when you feel like you're taking a stand or whatever, take a step back and see if it's something that can just be overlooked. That's all
Yeah.
I'm saying.
Yeah. Because you're teaching your kids how to handle conflict
Mhm.
and you're right. I mean, I think there are some times that we need to say, hang on a second. I think that that's not quite what happened,
Mhm.
but let's talk about it. Or, I always think about the fellow school board member's wife who, she would say, whenever my kid has a conflict with someone, we invite them over to play. And I thought that was just a genius idea because
I
when
love
you play
that. Yeah.
together, you
Mhm.
you kind of have to face it, and you have to when you're spending time with somebody, you get to know them better. And then once you know someone and love someone, you're much more likely to let things slide or pass, or you
Mhm.
know that they didn't mean it that way, or you think, well, they're just having a bad day. So yeah, that's great because I didn't really think about disagreements outside the home. I was just thinking inside.
Mhm.
Okay, so how you handle disagreements. The sixth one is they learn your daily habits, good and bad. Trying to think what my boys learned from me as far as my daily habits. I don't know. I don't know about that one. I don't guess I had too many bad daily habits, hopefully.
Yeah, to me, this comes down to how you spend your time, making the most of it or squandering it, or And, things have changed a little bit since we were raising our
Just
children.
a little bit. Yeah.
With I can see how it'd be so much harder with that. Just all the opportunities that we have on our phones, um, all the living, if you will, I'm saying that in quotes, all the living that we do on our phones, some of it necessary and some of it not.
Yeah.
I imagine that's much tougher than it was when we were bringing up kids. Ours was how much time are you spending watching TV, or I
Reading.
can't even think of anything right now, honestly.
I know. This one was a hard
What
one
did
for
we
me
do?
because I know that I would read sometimes, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's been 10 years since one of my children lived in my house with me, so it's been a
Hmm.
long time, um but I think that it's, of course, and we're going to talk a little bit more in one of the later ones about probably social media will come up, but your daily habits. So, whether that might be your exercise habits, your eating habits, your, um,
Making your bed.
yeah,
Hmm.
are you wasting your time? Are you being industrious with your time?
Hmm.
So they're learning your daily habits, good and bad. The seventh one is how you speak to yourself after mistakes.
Hmm.
I didn't ever make any, so I don't know if this one,
So next,
yeah, let's just move on.
number 8.
I don't know. I don't know what to think about this one too, because I don't know that I tend to be one of those kind of people that make my mistakes in private and don't really declare them. And there's a lot of people that I admire that will say, I messed up and and that's good. I think we don't have to tell everything. I'm always telling my mom, you don't have to tell everything you know.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
don't know. What do you think about this one?
I'm wondering if it's a little bit different. The number 3 was the way you apologize, which makes it sound like humility and acknowledging when you're wrong. And I think this one is beating yourself up, like almost a level. It sounds like it's talking about perfectionism,
Yeah.
and when you don't do things, when things didn't go off just the way you expected them or planned for them to, and a project failed or an event didn't go well or a speaking engagement you didn't feel good at. I mean, I remember saying I didn't feel good about that
Yeah.
speaking engagement, stuff like that. I bombed it or I dropped the ball or, I remember saying stuff like that, but I'm wondering if it has more to do with just really not able to let that go, and
Mm.
just beating yourself up over things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. They would learn for sure if you were crucifying yourself over something that you wished you'd done differently or didn't do as well as you thought you had. So,
Yeah. Hmm.
okay. How you speak to yourself after mistakes. Okay. Number 8 is the way you talk about money.
Mm. Money,
And I
money,
think
money,
that could,
money.
so are you too obsessed with having it or are you careless with it?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I guess they pick up on that the way you talk about it. And I have watched I mean, I know that our older two sons, Micah's kids are a little bit too small for this, but they have like savings and they have, I don't know, little pieces of paper that teach them about money. It's little assignments and they're just more conscious about that than I was. I wish I had been because we were never very good with money and how we handled it. And so I feel like we were not very intentional in teaching them about it. So I'm seeing our kids are doing better with that. But I don't know. What do you think about this one?
Well, this is one of those where I'm grateful for some of the things in my own upbringing because, we never had money when I was growing up. And I knew that. Not because they obsessed over it, just, we didn't do some of the things that all my friends did, that kind of stuff. But I really appreciated my mom and dad had, I feel like, such a great attitude about it. And, they were always saying, God will provide, Jehovah Jireh, God will provide, and didn't obsess over it.
Mm.
It was just, here's the situation we're in. We're going to be responsible. We're going to make the best of it and trust God to provide. It doesn't mean be irresponsible, but just, and I feel like I really took that to heart. And it just has kind of, I just don't worry about it. And, but also how you talk about money. I think the healthiest view toward it that I would love, I don't think I ever did this, but I would love if I started all over. The healthiest view that I would want my children to pick up and copy is to always acknowledge that it's the Lord's money, and to use that kind of language and to act in such a way that they know that's what I believe.
Hmm.
That I'm not grasping after it for myself. I'm generous with others. I'm not stressing over it. I recognize the source of it. I want to use it to his glory. That would be what I would want them to see and emulate and copy is this whole attitude of it's all God's, it comes from God's, and it belongs to God. I think that's a healthy attitude toward money.
Yeah. And I remember someone saying one time that you can be covetous on both ends. You can be when you have a lot, and that, we tend to think about people that have a lot of money as being um greedy or and I don't know why, because there are so many people that have money that have gotten that way because God blessed them with money.
Mhm.
And I mean, I realized writing through the book of Genesis, I remember there was a passage that talked about that God blessed Abraham with many cattle and land, and it dawned on me that God blessed Abraham with material things. So it's not always just a spiritual blessing that he blesses with, because God has blessed a lot of people with money and people who know how to handle it and can do good things with it. But people who don't have money are also can be greedy of money when you don't have the things that you wish you had, and you can be obsessed with it. And so there's people who have it and want more and more and more, people that don't have it that are jealous of people who do. I mean, there's just I hate money. Money makes people do things that they never would do if it weren't for, financial struggles or it, but you have to have it. You have to live with it. And but I think that's so important how your kids learn from you. Are you happy for people that have money? Are you jealous of people that have money? Are you always saying things like, well, if we had more money, then we could do it? Or are we saying things like, or are we, the way that we live,
Mhm.
are we so focused on financial material things that we lack focus on spiritual things? So this is a huge one.
Yeah, and I think, the litmus test is probably contentment. How content with that, whichever side of that spectrum you find yourself on, if you're on either side, how content are you?
Mm.
Do you always need more? Are you just so discontent with your lot in life that you can't be grateful for what you do have and make the most of it and take care of it because you're always wishing you had more? What is your level of contentment? And I like to think of myself as a content person, but then I also know I'm always like, if I had $1 million, I'd replace all my kitchen cabinets and I'd build on a sunroom. And I have all these things that I would pay somebody to paint my house. It's
Yeah.
like those thoughts go through my head.
Sure.
So I know that, probably all of us to some extent could work on contentment and our view toward money in general and just focus on being grateful for what we have and what we've been given and taking
Hmm.
care of it and making the most of it.
Yeah. I also think about how what is my attitude toward people in a different tax bracket, if you will.
Mm. Oh, yeah.
Um, or do I treat someone just the same who has a whole lot more than money than me? Am I going to be, deferential to them because they have money? Or am I going to be disdainful or dismissive of someone who doesn't, have that money? And where do you live? Where do you put yourself? Are you living in an area that is very wealthy? And if so, how is that going to affect your family? How's that going to, and it does. I really do think it affect, and sometimes you don't have a choice, but if you do have a choice, just think about the pressures that come when you are always around people that just don't have to think about money, what you're wearing, what you're driving. So there's a lot. I think there's a lot mixed up in this what they're going to pick up is how you talk about money, how you feel about money, how you talk about people with or without money. So anyway, there's a lot there.
Yeah, I feel like that probably needs to be a whole episode.
Yeah.
Most of these probably need to be a whole episode.
Well, and think about the passage that says that the love of money is the root of all evil. It's not just money, but how you feel about money. If you love money.
And be content with what you have.
Yeah. Okay. All right. The last one is how present you are or not.
Yeah.
And I think I know I've heard you talk before about being, you felt like you were on your laptop too much. And now think about, we didn't have phones and social media and such when our kids were little. So that's a battle that's going on now. So what do you think about this one?
Yeah, oh, it's got to be huge, and I feel that so strongly right now. I feel that right now without kids in the home. The battle to be in the moment and not constantly be pulled in all these different directions. I mean, that's what it is. We're so many things vying for our attention, that it's hard not to be thinking ahead, planning ahead, mentally distracted on our phones, but I really feel, and again, maybe it's this, I'm getting older and I'm seeing the value of time more. I'm
Yeah.
sure, you just have a little bit of a different perspective the more
Mhm.
years you have under your belt. But that whole boots on the ground, be in the moment, be where your feet are, with the people right in front of you that God's put there, and set the phone aside. You won't miss it. It'll be there later. This has got to be so hard for moms with kids, and especially when it can be the answer to all of your problems, whether you need information or you need a babysitter.
Yeah.
It seems like
Right.
the phone has the solution for everything. It can distract your kids while you do something else, or kill time when you're waiting in the doctor's office so you don't get bored. I mean, it's gotta be so challenging and hard, I would
Yeah.
think.
I just remember my kids being, Mama, 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 watch me do this, watch that. And that was before there was ever any little device in my hand. I'd be distracted cooking or reading or doing something else, and they'd want my attention. So I can only imagine what it's like now for them to feel like they have to compete with the influence of the phone and the world on the phone and now how you parent and how you do things is influenced by what you see on that said phone. So, I know people that are very conscious of not, they don't want their children to remember them looking, at their phone all the time, seeing your mom through the back of the phone. So that they're going to learn that from us. How,
Hmm.
like you're saying, how in the moment are you? How much are you paying attention to the people that are right in front of you? How much are you living where God's put you, or how much are you looking at the screen? Even when there's good things on that screen, it's still a screen. And I like screens. I like them more than you do. I'm more attached to mine than you are, but I don't want people to think that I'm less interested in them than I am if what's on my telephone. And especially don't want my children to think that.
And maybe this is my age and ignorance speaking, but if I had young kids in my home now, I feel like I'd be fearful of what might pull them, much of it being fake.
Yeah.
All the artificial everything out there,
Mhm.
including relationships, fake pals, artificial
Yeah.
pals and people. And I feel like I would be fearful of that. And what can I do to protect them from any of that kind of stuff? And I would have to think that being present would go far in at least um, preventing much of that desire. People are seeking attention. People want to be seen. They
Mhm.
want to feel important. They want to, feel that sense of relationship. And if you're doing everything you can to be present in the moment and make the most of those days that God's given you with your children, it seems like at least that would lessen that pull toward seeking those things out there that aren't real and there's no security and foundation to them, seems like to me.
And it feels like we're documenting our lives for everyone else in the world. I mean, you just see that people I do it. I'm not saying don't do it, and I'm not
Don't
saying
do
that
it.
I should do it as much as I do, but on the whale watching tour. There was these girls that they were carrying around the pole, like a selfie stick, but it's something else now with the little 360 camera, and they're holding it up and talking to it, and everything is being documented for everyone else. And I don't know if they have children or not, but I think that there are a lot of parents out there. They're spending their children are seeing themselves on whether they want to be or not
Mhm.
being documented for the world.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I just feel like you're putting your best face forward to these people that you don't know.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a lot of good motives behind it. They want to do good, but I think what are we teaching them by putting them on camera in front of people that they don't even know? I don't know. That's maybe a separate topic, but it's
Well, a lot of things on this list are, you know, neutral things. We're talking about money, and some of the other things that we mentioned can be good, used for good things. And I feel like they're all mostly neutral things. It's how we
right.
respond to them and how in balance we are. It's a part of our life. I mean, it's here. It's not like we can stick our head in the sand and say, I'm done with all of this. I have no
Yeah.
part of this world.
Yeah. Go
That's just
live
not
in the
very
wilds of
practical.
Alaska.
Yeah, that's not very practical. So it's here and it's a neutral thing, but we are responsible for how we steward that and how balanced we are in our approach to all of it and making sure it never becomes an objective or larger than life. And by life, I mean real life, Christian
Yeah.
living, people life.
Oh, well, that's it. That's 9 things your kids copy from you. And I know that there's a lot more that could be said about those things, but it's just something to think about. It's a good list to consider and do some self-reflection and maybe some self-criticism or some pat yourself on the back if you're doing a good job. Just communication and maybe a conversation starter between you and your kids or you and your husband or just you and friends, because I think a lot of these would be applicable between friends. So I
Mhm.
thought it was pretty good.
It was
Thanks,
good.
Angela, for sharing that. It was a neat one.
It was painful, but it was good.
Yeah, it was painful.
It was a
Okay,
good
so
hurt.
do you have something good for me?
I do. I'm so excited about this.
Okay.
So this one is thanks to Jenny Neville. I saw Jenny Neville. She listens to the Looking At podcast, or at least used to. I don't know if she still does, honestly. But she posted one day about, New Year. She'd been meeting with like this health coach, and she's made all these changes in her life, and feels amazing. And they were things like the typical, give up sugar, don't eat processed food, get outside, blah blah blah. Well, she said, and I started using a sun clock, and she put game changer.
Hmm.
I had never heard of one. And
I don't
so
know what
at
it is.
church, I said, tell me about this sun clock. And she did. And Neil and I ordered one, and I love it. So let's see if I can show you. It looks like this. It looks like a regular alarm clock at the bottom, and it's got this white circle
Mhm.
like the sun. And the way it works is you set your alarm and it gradually starts
Okay.
lighting up your room. It mimics daylight, it mimics
Mhm.
natural light. So it starts out kind of a low red color, like almost like the sun coming up. And then it just gradually lightens up your room and it wakes you up. And so I was kind of skeptical because I thought, I don't feel like that'll wake me up. I feel like I will need an alarm clock, but it does. And it's great, especially in the winter, because in summer, like I pop up, my eyes are
Yeah.
wide open as soon as it's daylight, and it's daylight early. In winter, when you set your alarm and you have to get up and it's still dark outside, it's like, obviously I'm still supposed to be sleeping. But this changes all that. And it just makes we've had it for 2 or 3 weeks now. I'm not sure exactly, but I feel like it starts off my day in such a better mood because I feel so much better when I wake up. Now, it does have all kinds of other stuff on it. Like you can set a backup alarm in case you're afraid, if you have a flight or something and you're afraid that you'll miss you can set a backup alarm in case it doesn't wake up. We've never actually needed it. And then it also has all kinds of other things. It's got all the white noise things and waterfalls, all that kind of stuff if you like playing that kind of stuff before you go to sleep. And then it's got all kinds of alarm sounds if you do set it for the morning, but they're like soft and
Birds.
soothing, you know?
Mm.
Yeah, just real. So we have loved this thing. And I wanted to share it last time, but oops.
You're
There,
glowing.
cut it on.
Mhm.
That was an accident. Um, we ordered one for Dale and Janelle's birthday.
Mm. Oh, so you have to
So
wait
by the
till.
time this airs, that celebration will be over and
Yeah.
I won't give anything away there. So
So
fun
in the
clock.
sun, like you were saying, in the summertime when it's light early, we pop up. I would need that thing to light up and exude warmth. And that would be helpful for me to want to get out of bed because getting out of bed, like when it's dark and cold, but if it was light and warm, then that would be helpful.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
I don't think it does that.
Okay. Well, that's very cool. I
Mhm.
I have heard of those, but I didn't hear it called a sun clock. So that's interesting. Okay. I'm super excited about mine too. And I have to use words carefully. I haven't even told you about this yet because I just found it last week. So we've talked about always being in search for the perfect foundational garment. And
Yes.
well, so I found one that I like, but now this one blows that one out of the water.
Oh.
And so I'll just show the box.
Avid love.
Avid Love it's just from Amazon, but Avid Love is the brand.
I like it
And
when you can pronounce it.
huh?
I like it when you can pronounce the brand.
Yeah. Yeah, when it's not some kind of weird, probably a foreign name. So this one, Avid Love foundational garment for women, no underwire, seamless, um, sleep padded t-shirt are the words that are on the back of this with a few
Mhm.
other words that I will just not say. I mean, just because everybody knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And it so it doesn't slip off the shoulder.
Mm.
It is comfortable, and that's all I'll say about it. But
Okay.
I will share, I don't know exactly how I'll share it next week, but a link or something, you know. But this
Yeah.
one is
Just
super
the
comfortable,
name.
and I'm super excited that I found it. And I think I found it on Mommy Markdown, and everybody was saying, this is the one. And I've just always been on the search for the one. So
Yeah, definitely. Well, I can't wait
yeah.
to try that out. That's always
Okay.
good.
Yeah. All right. So what's for dinner?
Okay, I'm sharing last night's because I don't know what I'm doing tonight yet. But okay, so 2 nights ago, I pulled out a ham bone that I had frozen from Christmas dinner,
Hmm.
and we bought a bag of that. You know that 15 bean soup
Yes.
bag of all the different beans? We don't use the packet in there, but I had soaked those overnight. So the next day I put it in the crock pot with some onion powder and that big old ham bone and just cooked it all day long and then served it with some cornbread. It was so good. The
Mm,
beans with that ham bone is so good. And then
yeah.
the next night, last night, um, I heated up the leftover beans, only this time I served it over brown rice and we put diced onions on the top and a little pile of greens, which is how they serve it in Tanzania.
Mm.
So it felt, it felt a little bit different, but we put Tabasco on it because that's how we like to eat it over there. So those were my last two meals, and that's what I've got.
When you say greens, like collard
I
greens?
used kale. I used kale. I just cooked it up on the stove top and then put a spoonful of it on the. So we did it at bowl style,
Hmm.
rice, beans, a little pile of greens on the side, diced onions, Tabasco sauce.
Yeah. So John discovered acai bowls in
Oh,
Hawaii,
yeah.
and he keeps saying, "What was it I like? That aki bowl, that acai." So I'm having to acai bowl, having to explain it over and over. Okay, I'm just going to say lunch because I'm not going to cook dinner. I've already cooked lunch. We had oven baked potatoes, and oven baked potatoes are just better than microwave potatoes.
Oh, yes.
And that you rub oil and crushed salt on them and bake for a couple hours. And then I made some chili to go on top. So we had
Mm.
oven baked potatoes and chili with a little bit of sour cream, a little bit of cheese. I didn't have any onions. I don't like crunchy onions on top of my stuff like that anyway. And it was yummy. It's a good day for it.
It is. Sounds really good. All
Yeah,
right.
that's fun. I like having new ideas. That'll probably encourage me to try new things.
That's what I was just thinking. I was like, note to self, pick up some big old potatoes.
Yeah. Yeah, the big kind. All right. Well, it has been a fun, off the cuff, very unscripted, it will be unedited conversation. And I think it will be good for people to talk about those with maybe between husbands and wives or friends.
Yeah.
Join us on our Facebook group, Looking Up with Kathy and Carla. And one thing I do want to mention, a lot of people say, I haven't caught up with your episodes. They're not really connected, so you don't have to listen to them in order. You can just pick up where you are now and go back later and listen to them if you want to. But the episodes are not contingent on each other, so you don't really need to listen to them in order. We'd just love for you to come and see what we're all about and like and share just because that helps spread the word about what we're trying to do. We pray every week about being able to glorify God with what we're doing. This is about Him and not about us. We just want to do things that are encouraging for Him. So we hope that you'll join us, and we thank you for joining us today. And until next time,
Keep looking up.